Death rarely arrives without warning. The body, in its quiet wisdom, sends subtle yet profound signals as it nears its final journey. These signs, often misunderstood or overlooked, are not sudden or dramatic, but gentle whispers of transition. Families, caught between hope and uncertainty, may not recognize them until the final moments. But understanding these changes is not about fear. It is about clarity, preparation, and honoring the time that remains. When we recognize these signs, we can offer far more than treatment. We can provide presence, dignity, and comfort. In this discussion, we will explore 7 critical signs that indicate life's final chapter. More than symptoms, they reveal a journey of grace, peace, and acceptance, one that deserves to be met with love and understanding. Number 1. Sleeping more than usual, the body's gentle surrender. Sleep, once a time for restoration and healing, takes on a new role in the final stage of life. It is no longer just about rest. It is the body's way of gradually retreating, conserving energy for only the most essential functions. As metabolism slows, the body instinctively shifts its focus inward, directing its remaining energy toward the heart and brain. Basic functions like digestion, movement, and wakefulness begin to fade. What starts as frequent naps extends into long, deep sleep, until eventually, waking becomes rare. Richard, a 91-year-old man who had always taken pride in his daily routine, began to sleep more. At first, it was subtle, nodding off during the day, struggling to keep up with conversations. But soon, his once bright eyes grew distant, his morning newspaper remained untouched, and even mealtime became an exhausting effort. His family watched as his once strong voice softened, then faded completely. One evening, as his daughter read to him, he let out a peaceful sigh. He remained in his slumber until, in the quiet of the night, his body let go. A 2022 study found that over 80% of individuals in their final weeks spend most of their time asleep, signaling the body's natural preparation for its last transition. This is not suffering. It is a gentle release, a shift towards stillness. If a loved one is sleeping more, let them rest. Avoid waking them unnecessarily, ensure they are warm and comfortable, and speak softly. Even if they do not respond, they can still hear your voice. Sleep at this stage is not something to fear, but to honor. It is the body's way of embracing peace, surrendering with grace, and allowing the journey to end with dignity. Number 2. Hallucinations and confusion, a glimpse beyond this world. In the final days, many individuals begin to see and speak to things unseen by others, deceased loved ones, distant places, or an imminent journey they must take. While this can be unsettling for family members, those experiencing it often display a profound sense of peace. Medical science attributes these visions to neurological changes caused by oxygen deprivation, metabolic imbalances, or medication effects, but for those witnessing them, they often feel like something far deeper, a transition of both body and spirit. Emmy, a 94-year-old woman, had spent her life as a teacher, guiding and nurturing young minds. In her final days, she spoke less and became withdrawn. Then, one evening, her eyes suddenly lit up. She turned toward an empty corner of the room, a soft smile appearing on her face. "They've come for me," she whispered. When her daughter asked who, Emmy replied in a hushed voice, "The children, so many of them." Her family was confused at first, but then they understood. Many of the underprivileged children she had taught over the years had passed away. Could they be returning to guide her home? Throughout the night, Emmy continued murmuring about a beautiful place and how she needed to leave soon. Just before sunrise, she took one last deep breath and passed peacefully. The tranquility on her face remained, as if she had simply stepped into another world. A 2020 study found that up to 50% of terminal patients experience visions of deceased loved ones, unseen figures, or describe a journey they must take. Neurologists see this as the brain's way of processing the shutting down process, but many families believe otherwise. Regardless of the cause, these experiences rarely bring distress, only comfort, joy, and a sense of closure. If a loved one begins speaking to someone unseen, reaching toward an invisible presence, or mentioning a journey, do not dismiss or correct them. Instead, listen with an open heart. Offer reassurance, letting them know they are safe. Their experience is personal, and whether scientific or spiritual, it often signals that their transition is near, and they are at peace with it. Number 3. A sudden change in the eyes. The windows to the soul dimming. The eyes have long been called the windows to the soul, reflecting awareness, emotion, and vitality. But in the final days, they often undergo subtle yet profound changes, signaling the body's natural decline. Once bright and responsive, they may appear glassy, unfocused, or even slightly discolored, as if a veil has settled over them. As circulation slows, oxygen levels drop, affecting clarity and movement. Many individuals develop a bluish or purplish hue in the whites of their eyes, while their gaze becomes distant, as if looking beyond the present world. Some eyes remain half open, tear-filled, or fixed in place, barely reacting to light. These changes are not signs of suffering, but rather a quiet detachment from the physical world. In the final days, caregivers often notice a shift in the way a person looks at the world, less focused on their surroundings, more attuned to something unseen. Studies confirm that patients may stop responding to light, their gaze turning vacant, almost as if they are already peering beyond this life. Whether this is a biological process or something more profound remains unknown, but one thing is certain: it is a silent, undeniable signal that the journey is nearing its end. Number 4. Talking about packing or leaving, the symbolic speech of departure. As life nears its end, some individuals begin speaking about traveling, packing, or waiting for a ride. While this may seem unusual, it is a phenomenon frequently observed in hospices, hospitals, and palliative care settings worldwide. Rather than explicitly saying, "I am leaving this world," they express it through metaphors, mentioning a journey they must take, a train arriving soon, or a person coming to pick them up. Psychologists refer to this as symbolic speech, a subconscious way the mind processes the act of departing. Neurologically, the brain attempts to make sense of the transition, translating the abstract concept of death into something more familiar: travel. Since travel represents movement, change, and departure, the mind may instinctively frame the experience in this way. A Harvard psychology study found that patients frequently reference packing, waiting for transportation, or searching for lost belongings in their final days. Some repeatedly check the time, worried about missing their departure. Others ask about suitcases or passports, even if they have not traveled in years. This is not confusion or random speech. It is the psyche's deeply ingrained way of expressing a transition from one place to another. If a loved one starts speaking in this way, do not dismiss it as meaningless. Acknowledge their words, offer reassurance, and let them know they are safe. This moment is not about correcting them, but about understanding that they are preparing for what comes next. When the time finally arrives, it is not a moment of fear, but a quiet, graceful farewell, just as they imagined. Number 5. Drastic changes in breathing, the final rhythm of life. One of the clearest signs that life is reaching its end is a noticeable change in breathing patterns. What was once steady and effortless becomes shallow, irregular, and sometimes labored. Shane Stokes breathing, a cycle of deep gasps followed by long pauses, is common in the final hours. Though unsettling to witness, it is a natural and painless process as the body lets go. Edward, a steady presence in his family, had lived 85 meaningful years. In his final days, his breathing became slow and uneven, with silent pauses between gasps. His daughter sat beside him, watching, worried, until a nurse gently reassured her. This is his body letting go. He is not in pain. As the night wore on, his breaths became softer, the pauses longer, until finally, there was only stillness. His passing was not a struggle, but a quiet surrender, a peaceful release. The final breath often comes as softly as a candle flickering out, not a sudden end, but a release into peace. And for those present, Witnessing it is not just an ending, but a farewell filled with dignity and grace. Number 6. Withdrawing from people, the emotional detachment. As life reaches its final chapter, many individuals begin to quietly withdraw from the world around them. Conversations become shorter, affectionate gestures go unanswered, and once cherished activities no longer hold interest. They are not rejecting loved ones or falling into depression. This is simply the body and mind preparing for the transition ahead. This emotional detachment is a natural shift. Just as the body slows down, so does the desire to engage with the outside world. Instead of focusing on relationships and routines, many turn inward, their attention drifting towards something unseen. They may respond with nods instead of words, look past those speaking to them, or seem lost in thought even when surrounded by family. If a loved one begins pulling away, do not take it personally. Sit with them, hold their hand, and let them set the tone. Words are not always necessary. Sometimes, silence is the greatest comfort. Rather than trying to bring them back into the world, meet them in the stillness of their journey. When the moment comes, they will not leave in fear but in quiet acceptance of what lies beyond. Number 7. An unshakable sense of peace, the final acceptance. Of all the signs that mark the approach of life's end, this one is perhaps the most profound. As the body weakens, a moment arrives when fear and struggle fade away, replaced by a quiet, unshakable peace. What once felt uncertain or overwhelming is now met with acceptance, stillness, and sometimes even joy. For many, this shift is subtle but unmistakable. Restlessness turns into serenity, anxiety dissolves into calmness. Some use this time to say their final words, express gratitude, or offer forgiveness, while others simply smile softly, stare into the distance, or rest in a tranquil silence. Whatever form it takes, this sense of peace reassures loved ones. Their passing will not be one of pain or fear, but of gentle surrender. A 2023 study on end-of-life experiences revealed that many individuals experience a sudden shift toward calmness and acceptance in their final hours. Some offer a knowing smile, as if seeing something beyond this world. Others say, "I'm ready," or "It's time." Their once tense bodies relax, their breathing slows, and a deep sense of completion sets in. If a loved one reaches this stage, see it as a gift. Be present, hold their hand, and allow them to set the tone, whether in conversation or quiet reflection. This moment is not one of loss, but of acceptance, grace, and release. And when their final breath comes, it is not an abrupt ending, but a peaceful transition, like a wave returning to the ocean or a candle softly flickering out. Conclusion: the gift of awareness and presence. Understanding the final moments of life turns fear into clarity and sorrow into connection. Death is not just an event, it is a transition, one that the body and mind prepare for in their own way. Recognizing these signs allows us to offer love, comfort, and peace, rather than uncertainty and fear. When the time comes, medical knowledge won't matter as much as your presence. Hold their hand, speak softly, and allow silence. In those final moments, your love is the greatest gift. You don't need to find the right words, just being there is enough. In the end, what truly matters is not more time, but a peaceful farewell. Ensuring that a loved one passes without fear, without pain, and with dignity is the greatest act of love we can give. If you found this video helpful, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Your experience could help others going through this journey. Subscribe for more insightful content on life, health, and meaningful transitions. Because in the end, what we leave behind is not just memories, but love, understanding, and peace.